Welcome back to another episode of Careful Boys. Today we have Mr. Steve Terada with us.
Living legend.
I'm glad Steve is here. I wanted to talk about this awesome topic. What do you think about how, how like some ancient martial arts that have been around for like hundreds of years or whatever, they're starting to get debunked by like fighters that challenge these masters to prove that they're useless.
Fuck a Tai Chi master.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like talk on the other side of like, hey, you're like disrespecting what was like an art form or like a cultural symbol for such a long time. Not all of it's about beating someone up. Yeah. How do you feel about that happening?
As a martial arts grandmaster.
As a Japanese guy.
As a Japanese guy?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like traditional martial arts, it's not practical. like MMA is like all the best things, just like Bruce Lee talks about that. And same thing happened in like tricking, you know. It's like it went from sport martial arts, and then we started doing like more flips and twists and all that. And then all the OGs were like, "You're not doing all this other thing."
Oh, like when people
but it's
were
like
using
the
less
opposite.
kicks.
Yeah, using less kicks and saying it's like not practical is like. I think there has to be like an awareness of like, these things aren't practical, but it has roots in like martial arts.
You know what I realized? So I did a deep dive on martial arts.
Okay.
And what we think is traditional is actually not traditional.
Oh.
So
some of it doesn't go back that far?
For example, karate is actually newer than boxing, Western boxing. Jack Dempsey in Japan, like a big time boxing star in America, was getting super popular. And at the time, the Japanese government was like, fuck, like we need a striking thing. And then they went to Okinawa and they found something. And then they're like, oh, we could do something with this. Because karate used to be called Chinese hands. Not
cool name.
They made that up. Karate just means empty-handed. But they made that word up. It was a national Japanese propaganda thing to bring a striking art into Japan.
Damn.
Because Okinawa is like, it's like half Chinese, half Japanese. It's like its own little like kingdom. It's a different kingdom from Japan. And they were influenced by Kung Fu. Yeah. But there was no name. Like Kung Fu is like not one thing either. It's just like a bunch of martial art groups, right? And then I just went down the line of like, okay, karate came in like Japan from Okinawa, and then the founder of judo, who took jujitsu and judo and the actual practical fighting styles that the samurai used, and they said, well, we don't need these things because it's just fatal. We don't need this for the sport. So they turned it into a sport. So like judo that you see today is not the actual, that's why you see such a difference in like jiu-jitsu and judo when it used to be the same exact thing. That's a Japanese martial art that samurais used because they're like, once you lose your sword, then how are you gonna kill this other guy? You can't punch him in the face. So you gotta throw him, slam him. How are you gonna kill somebody that has armor? And then later on it was like, you can't kill someone in college with a competitive sport.
I killed him sophomore year.
So they removed
3 kills my sophomore year.
He's not in the yearbook anymore.
So they removed all the fatal stuff, whatever. And even today, like the judo today is different from the judo in 1920. So then like, that's why people talk about like old school shit used to be way hardcore, because they'll be like, oh, you don't finish with like arm bars and shit like that in judo now, because it's like, oh, that's too fatal. But then jiu-jitsu kept it. So it's like all this like, it just keeps changing to fit the time and the sport. That's why, so then they talk about karate and how traditional it is and whatever, right? But what I found out is like, they took out so many practical things to systemize something that 100 people can learn.
So that it's sustainable for everyone.
Yeah. So then what we're looking at is an incomplete martial art. Original karate was more like MMA. They had throws, they had locks, they had strikes, they had everything, because it was like, what do you use as a warrior when you don't have your sword? So it's like, you gotta just do what you can to kill somebody with your hand. So that was the actual, like, I guess, progression. There was no like, you have to do it this way, whatever. It became like that because nationalism and sport. And then I dug deeper with China, and I'm like, yeah, how come Kung Fu sucks? If it all came from the same thing, like, how come you do this shit?
Hey, we got some China guys here, huh?
The
Right?
China guys are upset.
I did that shit for like 5 years. I got kicked in the mouth. I was bleeding everywhere.
But you were using crane style. You're fighting a guy with mantis.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
You gotta know which animal.
Mantis.
And I had a blindfold and I was trying to sense where the kick was coming.
Your take is Kung Fu sucks.
It all actually came from like Shaolin Kung Fu, or like there was another technique. Ip Man, he learned from a female. Yeah, and then it all. So there was like it was called flying crane, or basically, if you trace the origins, right? They all have forms. So the way that they taught karate back in the day is like they would have like moves of different like blocks and kicks and stuff, right? And then so if you trace the origins, there is like a set that everyone did, but then like for example, the Shaolin monks, they were warrior monks that were fighting off people that came in. It was actually used in war. But over time, when you have 400 years of peace and they're not using it to kill people, then they remove all the fatal things that was practical, because maybe it doesn't look cool for theater. Like wushu, that was like from
Performative?
It just evolved to like, yeah, this is for performance. And then now people that weren't warriors for like 300 years are like saying that this is warrior shit. They don't even test it, and then they get killed by actual warriors. And that's what I saw. I was like, oh shit, so these moves used to be practical, and over time they say this is the traditional way, but it's actually evolving.
In a
Yeah.
way, it is kind of dumb when like MMA guys go, I can beat this guy up. Like, it is sort of like
they're
a
losers.
stupid thing to say, right? Because it's like,
MMA guys are just mean, dude. I think those MMA, because it's like you're beating up a fucking old Chinese guy.
Most of the time, it's the other way around, though. I think it's not the MMA guys. I think I beat him up. I think it's the guy in the silk pajamas.
Yeah, that's
going,
true.
I could fuck you up, and it's the MMA guy going, oh fuck, all right. Well,
But also though, it's just like, okay, I'm not gonna fucking beat the shit out of you, because it's like, what's the point? I guess it's for YouTube.
Spectacle.
Yeah, it's a spectacle, it's a thing. But in my head, I'm just like, to me, when I see that stuff, I always feel some type of way, because it's like, it feels like they're punching down, as an MMA guy.
best feeling punch.
Velocity.
Total domination.
better than the Dragon Punch?
Yeah, the uppercut to the sky.
It's loser shit.
To me, bro, when I see that, I'm like, yeah, I just feel some type of way. I don't really like it.
You don't like it, huh?
I don't like seeing, because it's, dude, you see these, and it's always like some guy in a ponytail that wants to fight an MMA guy,
He grew his fucking
and
beard
he's
out.
like, yeah, and he looks like he's not in shape at all. So it's like, okay, why are you gonna even talk to these guys who want to fight you?
He's like, don't worry, I've been vegetarian for 15 years.
There's this one guy who was like, he's like an Aikido black. I forgot what martial art he was, but like, he looks like he owns like. He has a ponytail. He's like this big, tall, white
So
guy.
he owns a Miata?
Yeah, and a lizard, and a Miata and a lizard, and an iguana. And no, he starts fighting with this MMA guy, and the MMA guy just slaps him in the ear, and he goes, oh shit, hold on. It's funny, but like it's funny, but then I watch that and I go, like, my heart breaks a little bit, because I'm like,
But isn't that kind of cool? The MMA guy showed mercy. Like, he didn't even hit him with a clothes. He's just like, let me just give
I'd
you
argue
a little
he-
bit of a taste.
I'd argue he blew his eardrum out. I'd argue that.
But whenever I watch those videos, I have yet to see an MMA guy go hard.
Yeah.
It's more like a big brother.
I see some dudes. I've seen the ones I've seen.
The Nam Fan one was pretty hard.
The Nam Fan one is like, Nam Fan, what are you doing, dude? Why are you spending time?
Do you think that, how about
You don't need
this?
to be doing it. You're a legend, you know?
Do you think that these guys deserve to be beat up? The dudes that have mystical powers?
Yes. Did you see the?
One, because they're selling that BS too, and then it's basically like cults.
That's exactly why I'm against those. Yeah.
You know, it's just messed up that they're teaching all this and taking people's money. And
Bro,
yeah,
if you
it's just
believe
messed up.
that and you spend money for that, you got bigger problems than
But
fighting.
isn't there a little bit, do you feel slightly a little bit of a conflict if those martial arts, even though they're pretty phony, are rooted in like Asian shit?
Nah, because there's always some white dude with a ponytail.
Yeah, that's true.
And also, I don't think it's an Asian thing. I think they're con artists.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think
They're selling a dream.
I think I actually think they're tainting real Asian shit by like they're like not. I don't want to say like appropriating. What is it like commercializing?
Exploiting.
They're faking it, right? It's like there's ninjutsu schools in Japan, and
Those aren't legit.
no,
Really?
bro.
Because first of all, no one was supposed to know who the ninjas are.
What do they teach in ninjutsu?
How to be a ninja? Like it's okay. Like it's bro.
Isn't there a song for that?
It's how to okay. Like okay. So check this out. When you watch all of these like ninja schools, right? Like the whole group of people that are learning are white weebs. Like they're like cosplay fat white guys.
Ugly white movies now.
And everybody in Japan, like, we have real shit. Like, we have kickboxing, we have kyokushin, we have, like, they are laughing at these guys because it's like LARPers.
Yeah.
Like, they're learning how to fucking do smoke bombs and run away and, like,
But you know what they would say?
it's so stupid.
They would say, like, in the streets, there's no rules. So, like, boxing, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, all that stuff is just, like, non-existent in the streets where anything goes.
Because you can get hit with a white weeb shuriken.
But going back to what Joe said about, like, the older martial arts that existed, like, even wrestling, like Greco-Roman wrestling, pancration was, like the ancient Greek version of MMA that they were doing.
What did you call it?
Pancration.
Pancration, yeah.
They would, I think
Like
they're
wrestling
striking.
with like open hand strikes.
Yeah, so they were doing their own version of that in like ancient Greek time, and that's what has lasted over time is the wrestling, the Western boxing.
Grappling is like, because you have to use human resistance.
Yeah.
It's not choreographed. You know, actually, the Book of Fire Rings. So Musashi, he's like this legendary swordsman in Japan, right? And even during those times, because the thing is, like, I think in the West they have this idea of Japan being this like land of samurai, but what they don't know is there's been 200 years ish of peace where the samurai became arrogant guys with swords with a license to kill. So they're just a bunch of bully, like imagine like they're cosplaying, they're going around cutting people up because
Big man on campus kind of thing?
yeah, but with no challenges. So what Musashi did was he's like, I want to be the best fucking swordsman. And what I'm going to do is I'm
like
going to go to these schools and I'm going to challenge these guys because I want to see if their technique actually works. Because he's like, how can your technique work if you guys are just choreographing these moves?
Wait, are you saying that the spear and then they go like this is choreographed?
I love that though.
I think it's lightning
it's
fast
so
reflexes.
Yeah.
It's so good when
He
they
would
do it.
literally go out and test them to the death. Because he goes, you guys call yourself fucking warriors.
man.
And he goes, let's fight to the death. And let's see who the best swords technique is.
It's the
And then-
MMA guy.
Exactly.
Bam.
The concept of MMA and actually being practical has always existed. And this whole like school with dogma and being like, we're traditional. That's even a story in ancient times where like, let's say any school that believes they're the best elite fighters that have choreographed moves for 50 plus years and claim that they're traditional, they always get fucked up. So that's basically like the lessons of like, I think like when people think you're a traditional ancient thing, but they're constantly getting tested by people who actually do practical shit.
What do you think about kendo?
Kendo's a sport.
Oh, so it's not.
No, there's there's different kinds of like Yado, which is a drawing way. There's different arts, but I think it all came from real like killing, right? And warfare, and then it evolved to just like an art.
I think if it's a sport, then it's challenged and tested, and then they'll continuously evolve and be practical.
Yeah.
Versus like if you're just doing forms with the sword, like you guy that's like a swords forms guy, versus a guy that does kendo, the kendo will probably chop him the fuck up.
Yeah, he probably gonna kill him.
He probably won't be able to do all kinds
Fencing,
of fancy
dude.
shit. Yeah,
Think about
exactly
fencing.
fencing too. Like if you actually get a sword with a guy that fences, he'll just stab you up in like 3 seconds.
I forgot what there's like a Eastern European sport with fencing and grappling.
Wow.
What?
Oh yeah.
And I forgot what it's called, but like one of the students at the gym, he's like this 15-year-old kid that like trains this. And I was like, what? Where the fuck do you train this? What
the
I
heck?
forgot the name, but it's like it's pretty fucking cool. But it's like you fight with swords and then you grapple.
Yeah. I think anything with like competition evolves because that's how like Muay Thai. It's like they do like hundreds of fights, and then
There's
it's just, like,
17.
yeah.
Because even Muay Thai has the traditional aspect, Muay Boran or something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that's
yeah.
forms. But then the Muay Thai is the boxing, their competition part of it. So that's that's the part that keeps evolving. So even if you do like the ancestor of Muay Thai and you're just doing forms all day, which is what we see in Ombak, if they didn't have the boxing component, that would be impractical too.
Yeah.
How do you feel about movie stars, like action stars that are not actually martial artists?
Well, I think it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like yeah, because
You don't have to really like be good at sucking dick to look like you suck
You know,
dick
like
on
people
camera.
always,
it's about the partner, right?
you know, like someone always bring that up. Like
Yeah.
if Tony Jogg is on the rise, if someone's there, turns her chair around, goes, you know, that guy actually doesn't even do martial arts.
And you know that guy that's talking like that? He also doesn't do martial arts.
Because most
It's
MMA
always those
dudes
guys, bro.
love action movies because they see it as different. They don't see it as like, oh, it's my shit. They just go, that's fucking cool. Like in their
Because stunt fighting is an art form in itself.
Yeah.
I think it's like really fucking amazing.
It is.
Because real fighting doesn't look cool.
yeah, and MMA guys also love WWE.
This guy begs to differ. He's got a World Star Premium account.
No, I get it though.
Stunt fighting is not practical. It's like the complete
Yeah.
opposite.
But it's so cool.
I mean, real fighting is like two guys rolling on the ground for like 30 minutes and then someone breaks them up.
30 minutes.
Dude, I'll rewatch a UFC every now and then, but I'll rewatch John Wick 10 more times.
Will you? Are you sure?
Yeah, dude, I fucking rewatch that shit all the time, dude. You know what I mean? He does this. How cool is that? Because you know you're like, this will never happen.
Right.
But
Real fights are over in like a second, like a minute.
yeah, just like John Wick, dude. He does that in his movies too.
Oh
He kills people in like
like
half
2
a second.
seconds.
That's true. Yeah, he does.
It's pretty funny though, like how people. There's just too much dogma, I think.
My favorite is when we had Brandon Lee, the boxer, here, and then
Oh my
we asked
God.
him like which martial art you think is the most useless, and then he goes karate, and he went physically, he went, oh man.
Dude, I love karate. I think it's so cool.
Karate's tight, bro.
But then you said something that you didn't get to finish even mentioning. He was like, oh no, I would show you this full contact karate, but then you didn't get to like speak on it. What's that?
Oh, the sport karate.
There's full contact, yeah, Kyokushin, kickbox, like,
Bare knuckle fight.
Bro, you seen a real Kyokushin fight?
yeah.
Those motherfuckers are gangster.
Yeah.
Because their philosophy was actually like, you can't just be doing forms all day unless you see combat. So for them, they were like, you need to have physical resistance to test if your moves are correct or not. And then they actually evolved karate by studying other kickboxing sports. They actually did the first Street Fighter in Japan. They were the precursor to like K1 and all that because they invited all the stand-up striking arts, and they had an event because they wanted to see like how Muay Thai guys fight and whatever guys, and then they would be more like, hey, that's an effective roundhouse, let's adopt that. So the Kyokushin roundhouse is actually the Muay Thai roundhouse. And then I thought that was a pretty innovative
Tight.
way. And then the founder of Kyokushin, Masoyama, he used to be a Shotokan guy. And Shotokan guys were the original ones that systemized karate from Okinawa into these different categories. But for him, he goes, the type of competition that Shotokan does, it's point fighting, which is like you stop an inch away from your opponent. And then he goes, but that's not a real fight. It doesn't stop there. And then you can assume that you knocked him out, but how do you know you actually knocked him out? And then so he created a system of full contact karate, bare knuckle fighting. You're not allowed to punch to the face. And then and then maybe you wear a cup or whatever.
You can kick to the face though.
Yeah.
You can kick to the face.
Roundhouse a dude.
Which is
You can't
dangerous.
punch the face, but you can kick the face.
That part's interesting.
It's harder.
Dude, they'll be this close, and then a kick will go up and just knock out the guy.
Yeah.
And it's insane.
It's pretty crazy. But I think the philosophy behind that was like it's hard to land, and if you do, you should have blocked it. It's just gangster.
Oh.
But they have these fights where it's like you could do a 100-man challenge where you fight 100 dudes back to back or whatever.
That's crazy.
And it's difficult. Like to get a black belt, you have to fight 10 guys back to back.
Is this to get into the Crips?
It's pretty hardcore. But yeah, there's things like that. And a lot of the fighters from Kyokushin end up in the MMA, like John St. Pierre or George St. Pierre.
There's a big karate guy named Stephen Thompson. His name is Wonder Boy. And he comes out, his walkout song is the Wonder Boy song from Tenacious D, which is pretty cool. Wow. But he's like, you see him, and he's like the cleanest cut white dude from North Carolina. But in kickboxing,
Crystal clear, like a karate style.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's the only guy that's
Which-
like
It
this.
does like sidekicks.
And in MMA,
Yeah.
the
Only guy that does that.
in MMA, the narrative is you can't win fights like that. You can't win fights being a karate
He's winning
Yeah.
fights, huh?
He's KOing dudes, doing the craziest shit, and then does like the 540 crazy flip afterwards. Like he's the man, bro. But he fights at a high level. He fought for
It's like sport karate and like point fighting.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
adapted. For
That's
sure.
cool.
guys like Raymond Daniels too.
Raymond D.
You know,
Yeah,
bro, he's a
Boy,
gangster.
bro, he's sick.
He's like a tricker fighter.
Yeah, dude, he started out in doing like in competition, he would do self-defense like routines.
That's tight.
Shit, he'd do like a punch front over. The thing is, he's like 6 foot whatever, right?
Yeah.
His I think it's his half brother. He's like my like low fives. So it's like a foot difference, and he would beat the crap out of him. Like in
You want to see karate or anything work in a real context? You type in Raymond Daniels, his whole highlight reel, dude. He'll do a 2-touch spinning back kick to a guy's face and KO.
Side back.
He'll do a 720 like right hook and KO the guy.
Yeah.
Which is like insane. It's out of a fucking movie. But he's the man. All those guys. And they're, of course, they know Steve Terada because they're all legends.
But you know what? How sick would it be if someday one of them magic power dudes actually got into MMA?
Oh my god.
And was fucking dudes up with spells.
You do a chi blast, and then the MMA guy's upper half of his body just gone.
They just
But
clutch
what-
up. He's whispering shit in his ear. He's like,
But what if they pulled some live golf shit where they paid fighters to play along with this fucking...
That'd be so good.
I'll be the mark, dude. I could sell.
New WWE.
yeah.
Like, bro, you start... Oh!
Or I'll try to punch the guy and I go, oh.
They're doing that in like wrestling, pro wrestling. The freaking dick guy. He's like, oh.
But then some like Arab dudes enter the game and they're like, no, we're gonna pay this to make it real.
That'll be so good.
so dope. They're like, just for 1 year, and then at the end they can go, I'll take a bow. Sorry, you guys all get your bet money back.
There was that Shaolin monk, like that dresses in the full
Orange.
bald, whatever, and then he's been he made his rounds and like he was like, yeah, I'm gonna try to bring kung fu back and whatever, but he's just doing kickboxing.
Yeah, he fought in like K1 and shit.
yeah.
He does this thing where people punch him and he just like fucking blocks with no hands.
Like these guys?
He just takes. Yeah, he
Yeah,
just
dude.
takes the hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys.
I think once he got knocked out though. I think eventually he got.
From that?
No. That's illegal,
From
dude.
hitting himself?